All right, we're live. Go ahead, Laurent.
Thank you, James. So today I will present you the Eclipse Che and CodeNV CLI. So now the Che CLI and the CodeNV CLI are sharing a command framework. So it means that all the commands that you can find on Che, you have the same commands on CodeNV, and except some commands on CodeNV, you have the same command in Che. So it's very easy if you want to start Che and then you want to start CodeNV. The framework is easy to customize. So if you need to add some commands, it's very easy. You define some script, some file, you add the command inside this file, and it will be how to run the CLI is quite easy as well. So if you want to start the Che CLI for example, 5.0.m8, you have to specify the version that you want. If you want a different version, you just have to replace 5.0m8 by, for example, 5.0m9. The startup script is more complex. It means that you have to give some arguments to this command line, but you have some interactive help. So it means that if you forget to specify -v var run docker sock, the CLI will give you an error, and it will say the syntax that you have to use in order to start the CLI. If you can start by using this simple syntax, and for all the arguments that you have to give, will give you the proper arguments. In the same way, for using the CLI of Che or CodeNV, you have to provide the where Che or CodeNV will be configured. So in the same way, if you forget to provide this argument, the CLI will tell you either for CodeNV or for Che that you need to use. For example, you have to do -v, local path, and CodeNV. And for Che, /Che. The configuration in the CLI is quite easy as well. You only have one file to edit. For Che, it is called che-env, and for CodeNV, it is called CodeNV-env. If you add some new CLI for other Che products, your own product name.env file, for example, we may have an Arctic env file or env file. The environment files are very easy to understand. You have on a property, and if you want to replace or enable this property, you have to uncomment there the variable and as many properties that you want inside this file. So you have the CodeNV-env for CodeNV, and for Che, this is the same approach. You have a file with a lot of documentation, and if you want to enable, for example, J, you can uncomment Che-debug suspend or Che-debug port. By default, you don't have to edit any property. You just have to start the CLI, and it will use the default configuration. So I said that if you are using the start command, you will be able to run or start Che or CodeNV, but you may want to do some intermediate steps. So for example, if you are using the init command of the CLI, it will create a folder, directory with the che-env file. Then you can edit this env file, and then you will be able to configure your instance of Che. To configure the instance, you have the config command, which is used by the CLI as well. And when you have done the init and config, you may want to start che or conenv. Init and config and only the start, it will do all the previous steps. So between che, it's the same step, init, config, or start. It's just the name of the Docker image that is changed. In order to start the CLI, we are based on Docker Compose. CLI is able to generate for you a Docker Compose file, and you can run locally on your computer this Docker file. Once the configuration has been done, you can go inside the Che instance folder or conenv instance, or on your computer, Docker Compose app, and it will start all the conenv services or the Che services. So you don't need to use at this step Docker containers to start Che. An interesting point for developer of Che or conenv is to have a development mode. So it means that if you are building a local assembly of Che or conenv, you want to execute this local binary. So what you have to do is to mount the local repository folder of Che or conenv to specify the dash repo folder. So by doing this, we'll enable the development mode. When you will use the start command, it will use the binary or the assembly of your local Che or your local conenv folder. So nothing to specify, you just have to mount the local folder and you will be in development mode. So I think it's time to do a live demo. Okay, we'll zoom in. Okay. So if you want to run Che, you can do this. So it will tell you that you have to provide the sockets. So what we can do this.
Hey, Florent, there's a typo there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because as we are not mounting the Docker socket, we are not able to
detect it. Yeah. I'm with you.
So it's a hard problem, in fact, to solve.
Yep.
So in this case, we forget to provide the Che folder, and in this case, it's printing the correct image name because we are able to detect the folder. So I will specify local folder for Che and start. So it is initializing folder in tmp demo Che, checking the 8080 port of my Che, and starting Che. So you may want to check the log by calling docker logs Che. So you can check the boot of the Che instance. And if you go inside tmp demo Che, you can find the che.env file that has been used to configure the default Che instance. So by default, all is commented, but you may have to define and or change the value. And in instance, we can see the Docker compose container that is being used by the Chi instance. And if you want, you can execute this Docker compose on your local computer if you have the Docker compose binary. So if I go back to my Chi start, it's telling me that the nightly instance is up, and I can go there, and my local Chi is there. So it's very easy to start. What I can do, stop. And I will do some configuration step manually. So I will remove my local folder. And this time, I only say init. I modify the shell file, add that I don't want to perform the auto snapshot. So this property is defined and based on the che.properties file. We only replace the underscore by double underscore and the dot by underscore. So I save the file. I may run the config command. And we can see the file that has been generated. For example, this time I will use Docker compose up from this folder. So instead of using the CLI and the start command, this time I'm using Docker compose up. And if I check my process, we can see that the property Chi workspace auto snapshot has been given to Chi instance, and then Chi will be able to disable the auto snapshot. Okay, next, I will show you how to use a development mode. So I have a local Chi already compiled. And then this time, I want to use the start command. And I will mount my local folder of my Chi repository. So this time the idea is we take the assembly inside of my Chi instance and boot it. Maybe I forget to. Okay, if we check the file. No. I forget to use the dash the repo. Nope. So I forget to add the dash repo. So it takes some time because it's using my local binary with the volume mount. And this time we see the Puppet configuration. It means that we are in development mode. And if I check the log, we see this time that we are using a custom assembly. This is a custom assembly that I had. So in assembly main target. It was using this binary. If in my local repository I don't have generated the target folder or compile, the CLI will tell you that you have to run the mvn clean install command inside of this folder. So this time it's taking more time because it's using the inside the Docker syntax. So that's pretty all for the bootstrap of the CLI.
Florent, I think it's important to show more of what's going on with the instance directory that's there. This is something that hasn't been available to people before, and why we organized it that way.
So this file is, as the name is self-explaining, you shouldn't edit this file. In the data folder, you can find all the data of your instance. So for example, you have the database, libraries, stacks. So if you want to check the workspace that have been generated, you can go in the data folder. So the data folder, you can find it in the Che or CodeNV CLI. The instance folder is pretty much the same in Che CLI or CodeNV CLI. And in config, in Che, you only have one file, che.env, but in CodeNV, you have multiple files because you have some file for each container. So you have, for example, some for CodeNV, for Postgres, for rsyslog, for HA proxy, etc. And you have the log folder. I don't have anything because I didn't start any workspace until now. So it's empty. I can show you, for example, the start of CodeNV. So same approach.
We haven't shown it yet, but one important thing to have with the instances folder is that it makes backup and recovery different here, in that you can we now can basically just copy that single folder and it backs up all the data, and we have a common recovery scenario as well.
For CodeNV, you have more configuration. you have for colon V. And you have for Postgres. But all these properties are using this colon V of file. And in the log, in colon V, you can find the log for colon V, HL proxy, and Nginx or Swarm. And when colon V is ready, it's the same. You have the URLs that you may want to use. And you can connect using admin password. And you have your local colon V installation there.
Maybe we should pause and see if there's any questions yet. Yeah. Eugene, are you there in the room?
Eugene, your microphone's muted.
Eugene on the meeting.
I was hoping, Eugene, if he's in the room, if people are asking questions, could you translate or post them onto the chat channel?
Are we waiting on Eugene, Tyler?
Well, I can't imagine that we've done all this and there's not a single question. So we're waiting to see what kind of questions people have.
Okay. They could post it in Slack as well.
Whatever's easiest, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Я выключу.
Eugene, are you there? You're still on mute. I'm hoping that you can kind of organize people's feedback and questions somehow.
Okay, Eugene, on customers meeting now, I think people need to try by ourselves, this is a new version of CLI, to collect questions.
There's more to show, by the way, here. This was just the basics of it all.
Yeah, I think if people start using this CLI, they will have more questions.
Okay. Now, but before we wrap up, though, I think it's really important, Florent, that you walk people through the upgrade philosophy. So, so everybody really needs to pay attention to what we're about to show with the upgrade philosophy, because it's radically different than anything we did with Puppet before here.
Okay, I don't know if I can upgrade my local installation.
We may not be able to do that, but I think we can just show some of the concepts. The upgrade is really important in this containerized world. And when you do an upgrade with microservices, the upgrade process is essentially replacing all of the images that you have with a new version of images, and then starting those images, and then those images look at your data, and if it needs to migrate your data, they'll migrate your data for you. Now, the way that you trigger an upgrade is by the version tag on the CLI itself. So if you do, and then with the command upgrade. Now, if you try to upgrade the version that you already have, the CLI is going to report an error. It will tell you that the version that you are trying to upgrade to is not compatible. So if you put a version that's older, or you put a version that is the same, it will say, nope, you can't upgrade. If your CLI version is newer, then what it will do is it will go and download all of the Docker images for that new version, back up your data folder, your instance folder, and then restart it with the new version, and that's performing an upgrade there. So that sequence is a really big deal. And we've built this in for CodeEnvy so that CodeEnvy itself can upgrade itself without losing your data. The other thing that is really important with this is that all the images that you need, we keep an index of all the Docker images necessary to compile and run both Che and CodeEnvy. And we use that as a way to download these images when you first start up, and also when you get a new version. We also have an offline mode. You can actually run the CLI and run the command offline. And what we will do is we will download all the Docker images that you need as tar files, and you can save those tar files and do an installation of Che or CodeEnvy disconnected from the internet. So because of that, we now can capture everything that you need, and then you can run Che completely in an offline mode. So there's a lot of subtlety that's going on with this, and I really do want to encourage everybody to use the CLI for both CodeEnvy and Che. They're identical. We need this to be the only way that people use this stuff going forward. And this is really important because we'll actually consolidate these things so that if you have the Che CLI, you will be able to start CodeEnvy. And if you have the CodeEnvy CLI, we should let you start Che as well. So we should let you switch back and forth with the common CLI, and we'll get to that point eventually.
Tyler, hello.
Hey, hi.
Could you please explain how could we use
CLI, CLI to when we have our own binaries. I mean, when we change chair, when we are changing chair and then want to start it locally on the computer.
That's the development mode example that Florent showed. So all you have to do is mount your local Git repo to :/repo, and that will use your own binaries. Here.
Florent, do you think you can show that, or?
Yeah, it is there. Yeah, I specify.
There you go. Thank you.
In Che, if I go in this folder.
So what we do is we assume that if that's your Git repo, we know where the assembly is. So we will check to see that a valid assembly is there. If not, we will tell you that you need to build one. And if there is a valid assembly, we use that as the binary.
Installation is the same procedure if we want to. Hi. Yeah, I want to ask about Danui. If we have an own packaging, the same procedure for start.
Yeah, it's the same.
It's identical, yes.
Yeah, and exists difference before multi-node installation of Danui or an all-in-one installation?
We don't support multi-node installation of CodeIndy because with a Dockerized version you don't need it. So what we do support is a all-in-one installation with multiple nodes, a scalable all-in-one. So with the CodeIndy CLI, we have additional commands called add node, remove node, and list nodes. And so with the add node command, you can add additional physical nodes to your cluster on that, and those add additional swarm nodes for you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
One of the things that I asked Sergey to test, which he hasn't done yet, is we want to, because you have Docker installed, chances are you also have Docker machine installed as well. And so we can use Docker machine to simulate additional nodes. So we should be able to create a second or a third node using Docker machine so that you can practice running a cluster, a CodeIndy cluster on that. We haven't added that yet, but we can do that here.
Yeah, I just thought of something. I wonder, can we mount with the extra volume mount configuration onto the project folder?
No.
No. Okay.
It would not make sense. It would make sense potentially in a Che scenario. It doesn't make sense in a distributed CodeIndy scenario, right?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there would be a way for the development team to edit their binaries with Che and then start up another Che or whatever. But yeah.
That right now is a environment. We have that extra volume mount. On Che, it's an environment variable in the che.env that you can edit there. Any other questions before you guys get hands-on with it?
Any questions?
There are no any questions.
We know that one thing we know that does not work right now is proxy. It doesn't work behind a proxy. Now, Demetrio, Sergey, and Roman and I tried doing it proxy install at TIAA a couple days ago, and surprisingly, it installed properly without having to do much in the way of configuration, but it didn't work. The workspaces didn't start behind the proxy. So we think that the Docker network is potentially getting in the way. So one of the things we have to do is get the proxy configuration working a little bit cleanly. But all we had to do to get it installed was we added a environment variable to the Docker run command. It was something like -e all proxy equals the proxy, and it installed. And we were really blown away. So hopefully you guys see this as a much better improvement and really simple to use. And please, we want as much feedback as you can give us on it. Okay, thank you, Florent, for preparing these materials today.
And if you have questions, I could reply by chat as well.
Now, has the how many people, development people, have been able to use Che containers to do development so far? Are we still using native server, or do we need to do a guide or something?
We have docs for this all, so there's nothing more to do here other than ask people to use it.
Okay.
The docs for all of this are in the repo itself. So you can go to /docs in CodeIndy and /docs in the Che repo, and there's a README, there's a markdown page with all the details on how to use the CLI. It's in /docs, Florent. In the root of the repo. Yeah, there you go. Any other questions before we leave, guys? Okay, if not, thank you, Florent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.